So hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. This is our first edition of a CTTA Interview Series. We hope to bring you kind of a very mixed variety of folks talking about the business of towing, talking about the job of towing, the education involved in towing. We hope to bring in some legal experts to talk about that side of it as well, but all in good time. Today, we have with us today Sam Johnson. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Great. CTTA member, also owner of Capital City Automotive, and starting a new business, a blue-collar guy, sort of an online video presence. So welcome, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here today. So just want to start a little bit about with your background, kind of where you came from, how you came into the towing industry, and sort of who you are a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm a third-generation blue-collar entrepreneur. I'm specializing in automotive. My grandfather had a Lincoln Mercury dealership and an auto wreckers and tow company at one point. My uncle had a body shop and towing, and then my dad has been in the body shop and towing business for the greater part of 40 years. So kind of the family business. Unexpectedly ended up at B&J after having multiple different jobs in the automotive industry, working for other people outside of the family business. And started in the body shop collision side, went from estimator to shop foreman to production manager, and then made my way over to the tow companies. And like a lot of people, ended up in towing totally by chance. Manager quit, and a cell phone and some keys were dropped on my desk, and then 24 hours later I was called the tow manager. So the learning curve was a little vicious. But it's been about pretty close to 20 years. Oh, wow. So been at it a little while, and enjoy it. Enjoy the challenge of every day, and no 2 days being the same. There's certainly a lot of excitement. Outside of my line of work, I'm married. I have 2 children. I have a daughter that's just about to be 3 years old. I have a son that's 9. And very much like me, he's into racing and doing any type of motorsports type thing. So
you guys like to build a little bit too, right?
I like to build and fabricate. For a long time, I maintained a fabrication shop where I built pre-runners and desert trucks. I did some desert racing and some short course racing myself. Recently taken a little hiatus from that so we can focus on my son's racing stuff. He's in his second full season, and he's running 4th in points and trying to eke his way up there to 1st or 2nd. So
nice.
Really enjoying doing that, and it's a great environment for me to teach life lessons at the racetrack, overcoming adversity and having to be a competitor on the track, but a peer in the pits, and work well and play well with others, and sportsmanship and all the things that come along with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. The more positivity we can spread, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we talked a little bit about how you got into the industry, how you ended up at B&J. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the business climate that you found yourself in, and sort of how you had to sort of change things up a little bit in what you did?
Well, like I mentioned, my career in towing started at B&J Body Shop and Towing, and I came up under the umbrella of an auto club tower. We'd always had a relationship with being a AAA provider and providing roadside service. Myself and my 2 business partners at one point bought my dad out so he could retire. And then very shortly thereafter, we had the opportunity to come up to buy Capital City Automotive. 6 months after we had bought my dad out.
Wow.
So very, very quickly. I stepped in, started running that business, got a chance to kind of test drive it for a short period of time, and made the decision to move forward to purchase it, which essentially doubled us in size. Did a couple things. Doubled us in size, gave us a secondary location, and had given me the opportunity to learn remote management, and having to run multiple facilities and everything that encompasses that. So right about that timeline, which was about 2010, right around in that era, there was a lot of changes in our industry, rebidding of territories and zone changes, some operators going out, some growing in size and call volume. So it really made us step up to a over 50 size company, multiple, 45 different drivers, 35 units out on the road, 6,000 calls a month call volume. And it really strained the systems.
Right.
Not only on the individual personnel, but in training and equipment and fleet management. I mean, across the board, it really pushed us to the outer brink of, very high volumes that have to be run very, very efficiently. So part of the change, it would be, we find ourselves in a situation of high volume, low profit model, having to run it very, very efficiently, and then having that contract go away. And when those contracts go away, they typically go away at a breaking point, meaning they don't phase out slowly. It's overnight. And our business model was essentially 80% Auto Club. So in very short order, we had 80% of our sales removed.
Just staring at a big hole.
Staring at a big hole. And in that challenge lies a lot of opportunity.
Right.
With those contracts, you typically have an exclusivity agreement, so you're not allowed to go out and freely market yourself to the other insurers or other lines of business. There's some other new lines of business, technologies and apps and things like that you were also signed out of. So for the first time in my 20-year career, essentially the chains were off, and I had free reign to market my business how I see fit. We did a radical and very rapid downsize of fleet and drivers and personnel. We looked at what do we do really well and how do we expand that, which was customer service. We had learned over the many, many years of providing high volume services that we had kind of mastered a formula on how to get out there on the roadside and efficiently, in short transactions or interactions with your customers, have the optimal experience. Be able to provide to them service that was different than some of our peers by not being rushed on scene, but being able to be super efficient. So
Gotcha.
Able to kind of cater to what the customer wanted to see, provide the good service, provide the excellent communication, and at the same time, be able to move rapidly through the interaction where you're not delaying their day even further. Because everybody that you're going to experience didn't plan on being there that day. Every single individual that you're going to encounter is having an event or having an incident they did not plan on that morning. So you being fast and expedient is very much a focus of the entire experience, but fast and expedient without being rude or short or inattentive. And the car or the vehicle is not the most important thing inside of that environment. It's the customer. And the car really is secondary. And so many times we're so focused on how are we moving, transporting, lining up to the car, loading the car, where the car's going, how the car got there, that we forget that the customer is really the most important person inside that whole experience.
Right. While you're doing your tie down and all this, there's a person standing there. Absolutely.
And sometimes it's a very simple matter of effectively communicating with that customer and being that point of contact problem solver. So they're going to present to you some sort of challenge, whether they change the drop address or whether you're on the side of a highway, it's a busy roadway, and it's just simply not safe. I mean, there's no safe location on the side of a freeway with those kinds of speeds going by you. Where do you put the customer to put them in the best place of safety? And then how do you explain to them it's in their best interest to be in that place, not over your shoulder watching you load their Mercedes because they're really concerned about how you're going to handle their car. So those types of communication and effective communication with the customer change that experience and provide that level of customer service that differentiates you from other peers or other providers in our market or in our industry.
Absolutely. So you've downsized, you've focused on what you do really well and improved that even further. So now that you're kind of in that position, you've shorn off a lot of things. Where does that leave you? Does that leave you a little more nimble and able to pivot around?
So one of the challenges with running the really high volume model is that so much of your time and attention is simply just managing that, whether it's managing personnel, whether it's managing fleet, whether it's managing the call volume of that particular day, that you really have little time or energy to go out and market retail or market commercial or embed yourself in your community the way that you might want to. And now that we're smaller, we can react much quicker. We're much more nimble than we used to be. I'd compare it to driving an oil tanker through the ocean versus a speedboat.
There you go.
If we have a new customer, we can respond very, very rapidly to what that customer might demand or ask of us. The other thing that we were able to do is what was surprising, was actually one of the things we discovered inside of unwinding the relationship and downsizing, was we had a pretty high volume of organic retail sales. and we didn't market retail. I mean, this sounds ridiculous.
Interesting.
To sit here today and say we didn't market retail sounds embarrassing, honestly, but we didn't. And our reputation was our word-of-mouth referral system, and we actually had a fairly significant number of retail sales. And I looked at that and said, we're doing something right in that category.
Right.
How do we just expand the category? I don't necessarily need to go out and get new lines of business. How do I grow the most profitable line of business that I'm already doing? And so I really focused in today's world of technology and internet and social media and all those things, how do I put myself in a place of best opportunity to reach the consumer base I'm trying to ultimately get? I think in most towers, and I don't want to speak for all towers, but I think most towers, if we had 100% retail sales all day and enough call volume to do it, we would all be pretty happy.
Yeah.
And so how do I get as close to possible with that?
Right.
Experience, and that type of customer base.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that's kind of going well for you. And so with that sort of done and in place, and with the speed at which technology is starting to come into the tow industry, 5-10 years down the road, where do you see, these larger tow companies? Are they going to have to maybe do something similar? Or, what are these new kind of technologies, all of this in the future? What's this going to do to what a tow company today looks like?
I think we're seeing some rapid changes in our industry on what tomorrow's tower is going to look like. I won't say 5 years down the road, because I think that's too far to look. I think 18 to 24 months is kind of the window that I'm looking at for the future, at least on what I would feel comfortable doing any kind of predictions of. I think because of insurance and liability, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to maintain these very, what they call mega stations or mega contractors or major towers who have 100 employees, especially in California. I also think that technology is going to completely come in and disrupt our market. I think app technologies are going to change the way that we see the largest volume of calls being funneled into the service provider. And because of these app technologies, and you look at what does it take today to be a tower, between the training, the equipment purchases, all of the things that you have to do to establish yourself as a legitimate tow company, I don't believe it's the tow company that has as much to risk as the broker. That middle party, whether it be an auto club or some sort of call center or somebody who's funneling work, they have huge overhead, personnel, managers, middle managers, accounting departments, and all these other things that the right placed app might be able to replace a large majority of those personnel and those wages and move that money to the end provider. And where we've seen in the last year to 2 years so many well-established towing companies going out of business because of the insurance crisis in our state, supply and demand, our price point's going to follow, and so price has to come up. It just cannot stay a 10-year-old rate system and expect for our industry to survive. So our industry's not going anywhere. I mean, everybody's talked about self-driving cars and all of these other types of technologies that are coming into play, and I think they will definitely affect the industry. They'll definitely change how we do business, but my kind of golden rule is you take any type of technology and put a human being with it, don't worry, there'll be enough crisis and damage to provide for emergency services. We figured out how to pretty much wreck anything as humans. So I think that the apps are going to come in and they're just going to, look at Uber, look at Lyft, look at Netflix and the Blockbuster relationship. Look at, my grandma's on Facebook. I mean, the fastest growing demographic in Instagram right now is over 40. This is going to change. Yeah. And, in 4 years, 60% of the workforce is going to be this millennial generation we talk about. And that is certainly going to have an effect on who we hire, how we hire, and how we function our industry. And so there's a perfect storm brewing right here that is going to change. And, those who can navigate the storm, I think, are going to come out on the better side of this. And I think that there are brighter futures ahead. We've seen in the auto collision business, 25 years ago, there was a run of consolidation, and a lot of consolidators bought out small businesses. And in towing, shortly after that, we saw that happen. I wouldn't call it a success on either the auto collision side or the body shop side or the towing side. at that first run. In the second run, the auto body and auto collision side's been very successful. We've got Caliber Collision, you've got Service King, you've got some of these other larger conglomerates across the country. I would say that, you know, history kind of repeats itself. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 to 5 years we see another run inside this industry for consolidator efforts.
Interesting.
You know, kind of studying what they may have learned the first time, what they did wrong. And, you know, with the stock market being what it is today, there's getting fewer and fewer places for them to go with large new money to try to invest and try to create opportunity. Now, if I had a lot of money, I don't know that a towing company would be what I'd buy.
Right.
But we said that about auto body, and you know, that doesn't hold water today. They, just as recent as in the last 6 months in Sacramento, they've bought up several more new independent shops as the consolidator effort. So, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying it's going to happen,
right.
But it wouldn't surprise me if it did.
So what does it take for a tow company to, you know, what are the key things someone has to consider to weather that storm? Persistence, patience, what are the kind of key parts you would...
I think if you're in the towing industry, you may not have patience, but you definitely have persistence. I don't care. I mean, weather storm, don't weather storm, new tower, old tower. We're some of the most hardworking, persistent, dare I say, headstrong people I've ever met in my entire life. To weather the new storm, I think you have to be creative, and I think you have to pay attention outside your walls of your industry. I think you have to start looking beyond the tow industry to how is the world around us evolving, and how do we adapt our industry to that evolving world.
Right.
You know, if the simple comparison I would give is if you're advertising your business in the yellow pages, you're in big trouble. You know, if you're not specializing your website to be mobile app friendly, you know, you're in big trouble.
Right.
The motorists on the side of the road, and because of the generational habits, and I'm talking, you know, I hate to talk too often in wide paintbrush style, you know, this generation or that generation,
right.
But they're not. We're seeing trends that says they're not very membership based or club oriented. They'll jump from one brand to another based on if that brand, product, or service is working for them at the time. Right. So the idea to just maintain a membership and prepay for services you may not use, my belief is it's just not a popular practice we're going to see, versus download this free app. It's not going to cost you anything, and you won't need to pay for anything until your time of service. And then when you do need it, you hit the button, and that service is just a moment away.
Yeah.
And a membership isn't going to change whether that does or doesn't happen for you. So that's changing. The other part of it is that we are seeing a large push from the auto manufacturers that they are also unsatisfied with the current climate of how roadside service is being provided. You're seeing OEMs have multiple contracts throughout the country with 2 different providers so they can do their own in-house testing.
Interesting. Comparing,
you know, East Coast against West Coast performance based on the different relationships they're maintaining. I know that we have a relationship with a particular group right now that's servicing an OEM, and we're the West Coast version, and they're doing something different on the East. So, you know, to say that the OEMs might not change direction and go with one of these new apps coming out, it's probably pretty likely.
Interesting. Well, a lot of change on the horizon for the industry, I would say. It's going to be interesting to see kind of where it all goes. Now, I want to try and move along a little bit out of the towing specificity here and talk a little bit about your new venture that you just started, I think, this year, Blue Collar Guy.
January of this year.
January of this year, brand new. So talk a little bit about what it is and what you guys do.
So, again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, is I looked at I looked in my business, what do I do well in the business, and then what do I bring to the business, and what do I do well in the business? And one of the things that I looked at is my ability to connect with my own staff, create a culture that was consistent. So even though I had 60 employees, my customers were coming back and telling me that even though I was inconvenienced, and even though that I was not planning on interacting with your people today, when surveyed, 95% of the time, they would say they were totally satisfied with the experience they had with my operator. And that told me that the monthly meetings, the coaching, the culture building, and the things that I was putting out to my staff was working. And what if I was to take that type of coaching, seminar-style, interactive, and go outside the walls and go, instead of micro in my business, go macro to the world. And not just towing, but industry.
Right.
And I started to look at, what is my success story? Well, if you took trades and you took skill set, the automotive skill set away from me, I don't know where I'd be today.
Right.
I have no idea. So the skills of the automotive trade, fixing cars, and understanding this trade has made the platform for me to be able to be successful, buy a shop, buy multiple shops, be a multiple business owner, have nearly 100 employees at one point, and give opportunities to people that maybe they wouldn't have it somewhere else, but they especially resonated with trades. We have one particular guy that works for us who came in as a janitor, and he's now the production manager in our body shop, who has a complete knowledge, and he's a journeyman level technician at all facets of the automotive repair process. Wow. So he's just a terrific success story.
That's amazing.
And so I wanted to go public and say, okay, I'd like to share this trade opportunity. I've deemed it the blue collar advantage. That as you're coming through school, whether you're junior high school, or maybe even junior college age range, and the traditional education format doesn't necessarily resonate with you, or you don't see your place in an office, it doesn't mean that there isn't a place in the world for you. And as as you drove to work this morning, I bet if you just lately pay attention to what's going on around construction, housing, bridge building, roadway, infrastructure, it's everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, where are those people going to come from? Because so much of the technical trades are not being, and not even educated, but even made aware to the next generations that are coming through our school systems. And so I've kind of tried to be a little bit of an advocate to talk on the trades, to talk about high-level customer service, teaching technicians to become frontline sales force, as just some of the platforms. And then, how do we communicate with this next generation? Part of the trade challenge is labor. And I don't care if it's automotive, towing, construction, contracting, plumbing, electric, everybody I've talked to, because I reached out to the trades and I said, hey, what if I was to come in and teach your technicians on how to be frontline sales force alongside their technical skill? And all of them have come back and said, that sounds great, Sam. Let me know where we're going to hire that person. And so as I dug a little deeper into that and I evaluated what some of the trades are doing or not doing, and then what some of this generation coming out is being exposed to, we're finding that there's two ships passing in a night and they're not communicating with another.
Right.
They're not connecting. This generation coming out just isn't even aware. It's not that they don't want to do the work. There's a percentage of this group that, when given the opportunity, would probably love to rise to the occasion, because they have the same thing in them that I have in me, which is at the end of the day, when we build something, we fabricate or we weld or we repair something, we like to walk away and say, at the end of the day, I did that.
Right.
I was able to accomplish that with my hands. That still exists, but we're just not advertising the opportunity to them to expose them to the idea that they could go into these trades. And, maybe there's even an advantage there that they don't go into heavy student loan debt. They go right into a trade. They become an apprentice. They're paid day one, and they come out and have an opportunity to make as little as they want, but then that becomes the platform, like myself, that I have a skill set and a trade that I can take anywhere in the country, and I can become a manager, a shop supervisor, a foreman, a business owner, and have my own employees and pass that opportunity back, from the top back down. So that's kind of the large bubble of the blue collar guy. I've been able to go out and talk to I've been able to talk to some youth. I've been able to go out and do some customer service seminars for some larger groups that kind of shed some light on the challenges of customer service in the technical field, because it's not the same as a retail environment.
Right.
There are safety concerns, and there are things you just can't do because the environment that you're working in just doesn't allow for it. But we still have to be mindful that customer's experience is still a sales opportunity, and you still have to close them. You still have to sell to them. And the trick with technicians is they don't want to go to sales school.
Right.
It's really hard to say, hey, you guys, we're all going to get together and I'm going to teach you sales skills. They're not going to buy into that. That's why I became a technician. I don't want to be a salesman. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when you put, the electrician at the front door of the retail home, or you put the plumber, or you put the tow truck driver, with the wife and the kids on the side of the highway, whether he likes it or he hates it, he is performing a function of sales and customer service. And whether he does it good or whether he does it excellent is going to differentiate him and that business from the peers of that industry.
Absolutely, 100%. I want to pause for just a second and play a quick clip. of Sam doing one of these interviews, just real quick, just so you can see what it's about. But definitely check out the YouTube channel and check out some of these videos. There's a lot of amazing information for entrepreneurs, business owners, and people trying to make something. So let's go ahead and play that.
Good people want to see good people successful, and it's one of those things that when you're doing it and it's genuine and it's out of genuine intent, it comes back tenfold. It's just that thing you put out in the community. It's the tithing of energy that you put out. And as it comes back to you, in the strangest of times, and let me tell you, I'm going through it again as right-sizing my business and making some major changes. The quote I threw out about 2 weeks ago was, don't underestimate the equity of integrity.
Awesome clip. Thank you, Sam. We appreciate that. So I know you guys have, you're on YouTube with these, but you also have a website as well. What's the URL for that?
thebluecollarguy.com.
Thebluecollarguy.com.
And you can find me on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and follow those folks. Sam, thanks so much for joining us today and talking about just everything under the sun with the industry and outside of it. We really appreciate it. A little swag for you here, CTTA hat. We also have these brand new slow down, move over bumper stickers for CTTA.
I'm a big fan of that.
So yeah, a couple of those for you. And again, just thanks for sitting down talking to us. This is our first time doing this, and you were the perfect person. And
thank you for the invite. I welcome any interactions in the future, and I'm kind of proud to be the first guy through the door. So I think this is a great segue, great video, and I think you guys will have a good opportunity to interview a lot of other professionals of our industry.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Cool. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.